Hey there, welcome back. And today what we're going to be talking about is father wound, and more specifically, the 4 archetypes of the father wound that I have created based upon working with men for so many years, fathers, and then witnessing the impact that fathers have on their children. This is extremely important to understand because when you can know where your wounds come from, you can have specific tactics to heal them. So this is just a sneak peek. Obviously you can't read it, but we're going to go through it together on that whiteboard back there. And I would love if when you're watching this, you can comment below during different times that you may really resonate, or if you have different combinations of each subtype that I create. So let's go. So here we have the 4 archetypes of father wound, and we're just going to make a chart. In order to get the father wound, these things must happen. There are very specific things from fathers that are either absent or missing or detrimental to a child's health, as there are with mother. I'll make a separate video on mother wounds. But the first one that we're going to talk about that I've categorized as an archetype is the ghost father. The ghost father is the stereotypical absent father. So he's absent either mentally, physically, or emotionally. So if you have the ghost father, your dad really wasn't present. So maybe he worked all the time and he wasn't able to spend time with you, or even when he played with you, you could just tell he was off in the distance, or he was just always busy with other things, or he wasn't around at all. You didn't know your dad, he never came around, he was gone, he was the ghost. And then we have the monster. The monster dad is the stereotypical abusive dad. I'm going to get on my knees here to shrink down so I can write below this. So he's abusive. Same thing as this, either mentally, physically, or emotionally. He may not have ever hit you, but maybe he called you names. Maybe he made you feel bad. Maybe he ridiculed you in public in front of everyone and embarrassed you. He's the monster. And we're going to switch over to the other side. Then we have the child. Everybody knows what a child parent is like. You have to take care of them. They're irresponsible. He doesn't pay his bills on time. Maybe he forgets his wallet. You feel embarrassed to have a child parent. Okay? Irresponsible. Doesn't own up to responsibilities. Immature. Maybe they make jokes that are inappropriate, like not dad jokes, but annoying jokes, embarrassing jokes, things that are like cringeworthy, right? They act like a child. And then the last one that we have that a lot of you may resonate with is the weakling. The weakling father has no boundaries. He has no boundaries to the point where you see him and you feel bad for him. You feel bad for the weakling dad. Maybe he gets trampled on by other people. Maybe he gets trampled on by mom. This dad is typically the one getting talked to or yelled at or abused by mom and never says anything, never sticks up for himself. In fact, you feel the need to defend him. You feel the need to stick up for him because he just can't do it himself. So no boundaries. You feel bad. He gets abused by mom, or he witnesses the abuse that your mom gave you and doesn't say anything. So he's like the opposite of a savior. But he's so weak that you almost don't even blame him. Okay, so those are the 4 archetypes: ghost, monster, weakling, and child. And I have archetypes on here as well. Like a sub-archetype of the monster is the perfectionist dad. The dad who, no matter what you say or do, nothing is ever good enough. He's very militant. Things have to be my way or the highway. You feel the need to earn his love. And then we also have the escapist, which is a subcategory of the ghost. So he's not present because he escapes using alcohol, using drugs, using work. He's just never there. He's always going after something external. So these are the 4 archetypes. Now you might be going, okay, Elise, now that I know these 4 archetypes, what does it have to do with me? Now that I resonate, how can I heal this? Well, I'm going to go one step further with you. I'm going to go through with you if you have a ghost dad, a monster dad, a weakling dad, a child dad, what that means for you as a man. So let's start off with ghost dad. If you have a ghost dad, someone who is absent from your life, like we said, what kind of man do you become? If you have any guesses, I want you to comment below what guesses you might have as we're going through this. If you have a ghost father who is emotionally unavailable, emotionally absent, you're not going to develop a connection with intimacy, which means you will usually be void of emotion, struggle with connection, and just feel kind of lost, shut down, or purposeless. It's not necessarily that you turn into a bad person or you do bad things. You just don't feel connected to yourself. And because you don't really feel connected to yourself, you don't really connect well with other people. Because dad wasn't there to give you a sense of direction, of purpose, to really help you learn what the role of a man was. So you're just a little bit lost. And because you're a little bit lost, you latch on to the ideals that society plays out for you. What is a father role? So whoever you had in your life, including your mom, including your masculine figures, those are going to heavily be what the influence comes from. And like I said, these are the archetypes. It doesn't mean you exactly turn out with these personality traits, because your environment is actually the largest predictor of your personality. So this is literally just saying, if you had this person and they were absent, assuming you had a single mother household and no other mentors. That's what we're going to base these archetype personality traits off of, because you can also have combinations and things like that. But generally speaking, if you had an absent ghost father, you're going to lack emotion, struggle with intimacy, struggle with connecting with yourself and connecting with others, okay? If you had a monster father, this is the abusive dad. Generally, these men actually turn out to be more gentle, because statistically speaking, if you are abused, you do not become an abuser. You actually become the opposite. You become more caring. So you become gentle, caring. You usually become a people pleaser, because trauma makes us feel like we cannot be ourselves in order to survive. We have to adapt to the environment. We have to perform for the people around us. So we become gentle, we become caring, we become people pleasers, and generally we become really avoidant of conflict. So if you're really paying attention to this, you're really paying attention to the traits, a little fun fact is this is how it goes. Monster fathers usually create weakling dads. So if a monster father abuses his son, manipulates him, creates a lot of conflict, creates a lot of inner turmoil in his world, he usually takes that and becomes a weakling with no boundaries, people-pleasing tendencies, very gentle, very loving, very nice, but no sense of self-worth, an internal sense of shame. These things get very deep. So these are the traits so far. Let me know in the comment section below if you're resonating with any of this. Now we're going to go on to the child and the weakling. So the child father. If you have a child father, you're going to grow up resentful. You're usually going to grow up with a lot of resentment because this dad robbed you of your childhood. A father who does not show up on time, does not pay his bills, who embarrasses his child, makes you feel like you have to now be the parent. And so you have a lot of resentment and a lot of anger issues. However, the anger issues you do not take out on other people, you take them out on yourself. Why is this important to know? Because when we're a child who grows up resentful and angry and bitter against our parent, we usually create a common enemy out of them, which means we try to be the exact opposite. So if we had a child father who wasn't making enough money, who was irresponsible, who just didn't know how to take care of us, We make sure we're hyper independent, hyper responsible, able to get our kids the best of the best, always show up on time, always go to every game. You become the exact opposite of your child father, but you're still angry and still resentful. You take it out on yourself by overworking, by doing drugs or alcohol, by keeping everything in because you just want everybody else to have a good experience that you never had. This is really one of the hardest parents to deal with, as it turns out for your personality trait, because you can't really pinpoint anything that your parent did wrong. They just were a child. And then we have the weakling. If you have a weakling father, this is really difficult because this is usually the dad that creates monster. Why would you think that? Why would a weakling, a person who's a people pleaser, a person who does whatever his wife says, create a monster child? Because this guy feels so bad for him, he becomes angry at women. Because he doesn't understand that it's the father not expressing boundaries, the father not gaining respect, as well as the abusive mother. So all he sees is the common enemy as women. Because usually if a man is sticking around with a woman who doesn't treat him well or treats the kids unwell, he gets anger and resentment against the father, but he gets angry at women because he sees them as the cause. So then he develops an avoidant attachment style, usually objectifies women, and really creates this ecosystem because he never truly sees what real love is. He only knows what abuse and surrender is. And he just knows he never ever wants to feel that way. He never wants to be taken advantage of. He never wants to be betrayed. So he says, fuck them hoes. I'm going to go and be a tough guy. I'm going to latch on to society's version of what a strong man is. He resents his weakling father. So we've just gone over the ghost, the child, the weakling, the monster. And now that we understand a little bit about the archetypes of men who create father wound and the type of men we can become by understanding and studying them, what do we do to solve it? What do we do to fix it? If you had a ghost father, the absent, your biggest hang-up is going to be identity. You will feel lost with your purpose. You'll feel lost with who you feel like you are, your place in the world, how to express yourself. Everything that kind of surrounds your identity, you might feel disconnected from and lost. So this is like your number one thing to work on. We'll go through how to work on this after, but I just want to touch on the main points. If you had a monster father, you will struggle with, one of the biggest things is shame. Because you will feel like everything that you do is not good enough, it's wrong, it's bad, and you will feel shame expressing anger yourself. You will feel shame about everything. That's going to be your biggest hang up if you have the monster. If you have the child, your biggest hang up is going to be control. You won't know how to let go. You will want to control everything. And you will have real heightened anxiety when things don't go your way. When, you'll turn into a perfectionist. You'll turn into the archetype of the perfectionist. Or the militant type of dad. So you're going to struggle with control and letting things go and letting things manifest for you. And if you had the weakling, your biggest hang up usually is going to be struggling with trust and accepting love and intimacy, especially from a woman. So ghost father, you struggle with identity. Monster, you struggle with shame. Child, you struggle with control. And weakling, you struggle with trust and accepting love. These are obviously just one thing that each is going to struggle with, kind of like as a main umbrella. You can obviously have combinations of these fathers, so you'll have combinations of these things. However, there are some pathways that all of these can use to solve, as opposed to me going through these individually, which I can do in a different video. If you want that, comment below and I can make one for each category. But the main thing that you're going to want to do first to solve all of these, number one, find a male mentor. You're going to want to find a male mentor. Someone that has the life, the values, the belief system that you admire, that you aspire to. They have the family. It's not just externalized. It's not just the cars or the watches or the money. They have a good spirit. They have a good heart. They treat people well and kind. Look for core values in a mentor. You might have to find multiple mentors. Maybe you find a business mentor. Maybe you find a family mentor. But make sure that they're a man that you can look up to, and then confide in them. If a lot of them are online mentors, try to find someone in your local community, or an uncle or a brother, or someone who you can trust that you can actually confide in and start to develop deeper relationships with. I meet a lot of men who have man friends, but they only have superficial relationships. And this is super detrimental because not creating depth within those masculine roles only perpetuates the superficialness that society says men don't have emotions or feelings, or they don't like to talk about things. Once a man opens up, he loves to talk about things, not in the same way that a woman does, but in his own way. And it should only be fair that you should have the right to express that in your own way with another man, feeling like you can trust another man. This helps to mend the father wound by finding a new male mentor and confiding in them, opening up, being vulnerable. This is how you heal the father wound, because as a child, if you didn't feel safe with your father because he was one of these things, he really let you down, he didn't put trust in that he could take care of you, you're going to struggle with safety around men. So we need to reestablish that. First, find a male mentor, then confide in them. And then, at the same time, hopefully, so it's not really like a step 3, it's kind of like number 1 for yourself. We have to work on the self-work. So maybe whichever one that you struggle with the most, you want to start with. But it's always self-work. So how do you take care of yourself? Many men do not take care of themselves. They take care of everybody else first. They don't have time carved out for themselves. They have open door policies at work where people can come in anytime, talk to them anytime, text them anytime. And so they never separate work and pleasure. They never can be present at home. And then they become the ghost dad, right? So you also want to prevent yourself from falling into these categories as well, which is exactly what this kind of / does, is where am I not hitting the good points here that I can bring down here? So am I taking care of my responsibilities? Am I being present at home? Am I handling my anger issues? Am I being self-controlled? Am I letting some things go? Okay? Am I able to actually accept and receive love? These are the questions that I want you to ask yourself. So start giving yourself time for yourself and doing activities that you actually enjoy that aren't just related to work. Okay? And then, if you can, go see a coach or a therapist to start building a relationship that you can trust. Because a lot of men don't have anyone to talk to. They want to do this all by themselves. And the whole point of this whole exercise, of anything that I teach, is that you don't have to do it alone. And more likely than not, you can't do it alone. We are born into relationship. We are born into having people we need to depend on to take care of us. So when that biological instinct is severed, and we say, oh, I can do it by myself, or I'm just going to do it alone, or I'm better off alone, we are trying to deny nature. Nature is truth. So I want you to go to a coach or a therapist that you can trust, that you can start trusting at least, to start rebuilding that natural instinct within yourself of, how do I trust people? How do I know when it's safe? How do I know what a secure attachment style is? How do I know what a secure relationship is? And they can help check you for all of this stuff. Because you can watch as many YouTube videos as I have and start to understand and start to unravel. But it's also good to have somebody else there to check you and then be there to say, I'm here to support you. Because I can tell you right now, I'm here to support you too, but you may not feel witnessed by me. You may not feel seen by me. It's expressing ourselves to someone else that helps us feel recognized and seen and valid. When you feel valid, that's 90% of the healing. This was the 4 archetypes of the father wound. My name's Elise Micheals, men's mental health coach. I have tons of free resources on my website, in my bio. Like I said, this is not going to be on any psychological website. It is something that I created as a framework to help men understand how they've been impacted by childhood trauma. And so if you have any questions, please put them down below. I'm happy to make more videos on this if you would like, and I will see you next time.